So recently, I've been looking at the Metroid timeline, trying to figure out what's considered canon or not for a bigger video I'm working on. And when I look at each game individually, everything seems to make sense for the most part. However, when I start looking at the more wider picture, trying to connect games together, there's some continuity errors or some flaws or plot holes or just something inconsistent that normally appears somewhere in the Metroid timeline. Now for the most part, some of these inconsistencies don't really matter in the large scope of the Metroid franchise. However, I just want to bring up 5 of these little plot holes or inconsistencies or continuity errors just to, just to make a cool video, because I think it's a pretty interesting topic. And if you guys know any other inconsistencies, plot holes, continuity errors within the Metroid franchise, feel free to tell me in the comment section, because I'm pretty sure you guys can think of a lot more crazier and much more obvious ones than I ever could. So that being said, let's cue up that video and roll out that intro. So the first inconsistency or plot hole would be, where did Samus learn how to shine spark and wall jump? Now I know what a lot of you are going to be saying. Samus learned from the Edikuns and Koras during Super Metroid. We see her learn these abilities, and the Edikuns and Koras are important to the series because of this specific moment. However, when we look at Metroid Zero Mission, which takes place in the beginning of the timeline because it's a remake of the first game, we see that Samus can already do these abilities without the help of the Edikuns and the Koras. Now obviously gameplay wise, it makes complete sense. If you're going to remake an older game, you gotta add in the newer mechanics and newer abilities from the newer games into the older game to make it seem much more relevant and much more refreshing. It wouldn't make that much sense for like Metroid Zero Mission to not include these abilities, because at this point everyone's already used to them, so removing them would just seem out of place. So gameplay wise that makes sense. However, story wise it's just inconsistent. It kind of makes it look like Samus didn't even need the Edikuns and the Koras, and thus making their relevance into the series much more smaller than it should be. Now I understand why we gotta start off every Metroid game with literally nothing in our arsenal, because it's kinda boring. Would you really want to start off a Metroid game with all your upgrades intact and nothing to progress towards? I wouldn't think so. So it makes sense when you play games like Prime 2 or Metroid Fusion, you have none of your abilities. And I do like how some of the games actually try to explain why Samus has none of her upgrades. Between Metroid 1 and Metroid Prime 1, Samus gets caught in an explosion and she loses all of her upgrades. During the beginning of Metroid Fusion, Samus gets infected by an X-Parasite and loses all of her arsenal because her suit is surgically removed. She can't handle all of her upgrades at the time. Makes complete sense. And it's also understandable how in some games you can't really explain some stuff, like between Prime 3 and Metroid 2. So there's obviously no way that Nintendo would know about Prime 3 since it hasn't even been anywhere near conceived yet. So it makes sense why in between those two games Samus wouldn't have the remnants of the PED suit or the Nova Beam or any of her Prime 3 abilities. That makes complete sense. But what about in between games that happen right after each other? Like between Prime 1 and Prime Hunters? Why doesn't Samus have the gravity suit in Prime Hunters? We see her having it during Prime 1, where is it in Prime Hunters? And what about in between Prime Hunters and Prime 2? Where's the Imperialist? Where's the Battle Hammer? Where's the Volt Driver? The Shock Coil? Any of those cool hunter weapons? They don't appear anywhere in Prime 2. Those games should be happening in between each other. Retro Studios should obviously know about their previous games since they made it, so where are those upgrades and items in those games? And here's something that's really crazy. In between Metroid 2 and Super Metroid, in between those two games are literally like at the very most an hour in difference. Metroid 2 ends and then immediately Super Metroid starts, because that's the freaking time frame in between those games. So where's the Spider Ball in Super Metroid? Where's the Spazer Beam? Where's the Varia suit? This kind of inconsistency is kind of crazy, because it's not explained where these upgrades go or why they're even gone in the first place. It's just, whoops, Samus has nothing in her arsenal. Are we going to explain it? Nah, the player doesn't need to know. Now this is one of those canon-shattering continuity errors that a lot of people really hate, and it involves Metroid Other M, so you know it's going to be amazing. During Metroid Other M, Samus has talks about how she hasn't worked for the Galactic Federation since Ian Malkovich's death, which we see in Metroid Other M, and this has got a lot of people riled up over whether Other M's canon or not because of this piece of dialogue. Because if Samus says she's never worked for the Galactic Federation, then what happens to Metroid Prime 3? In Metroid Prime 3, Samus was hired by the Galactic Federation, and she worked with the Galactic Federation along with the other bounty hunters to protect Norin from the Leviathan Seed. So she was helping the Galactic Federation and working with them to fight off the space part invasion and stopping the Leviathan Seed. So she's worked with the Galactic Federation, but that contradicts what she said about Metroid Other M. So does that mean Other M is not canon? Does that mean the Prime trilogy is not canon? Other people have taken this even further by saying Samus has worked for the Galactic Federation. In Metroid 1, she was hired to take care of Mother Brain. She was hired to take care of the Metroids during Metroid 2. Does this mean Other M's on a different continuity? This piece piece of contradiction is pretty crazy. I just think it's poor dialogue. I mean, technically Samus has worked for the Galactic Federation, but has never been an official member, and I think that's what she was referring to when she was talking about how she hasn't worked for them since Ian's death. But it's still a contradiction nonetheless, because the wording was horrible, and it's open to interpretation, so what are you gonna do? Now, it's no secret that the Galactic Federation isn't really the most trustworthy organization out there in the Metroid universe. A lot of evidence point to them not being that great. Stuff like them trying to clone Metroids, them trying to make a mother brain AI, them using Phazon in their weaponry, them trying to replicate Samus's Chozo armory. They're not really the most trustworthy people out there. I mean, when you literally need a double agent to kill everyone aboard the bottle ship just to keep your secret secret, you know you're not a good organization, morally speaking. And during the events of Metroid Other M, Samus has seen a lot of stuff. One of the biggest things that she learns that the Galactic Federation was cloning Metroids similar to how the space pirates were and weaponizing them so they don't have their #1 weakness available anymore. That's a pretty bad sign. So why does Samus help the Galactic Federation during Metroid Fusion? That really makes the least amount of sense continuity wise. Samus seeing all this crazy stuff but then out of nowhere, and they're not that bad. I can help them explore SR3D8. It's not like they're gonna use that information to, I don't know, make a Metroid habitatry or anything like that. Nah, I can trust them completely. Them hiring someone to kill everyone aboard the bottle ship, that's alright. Them cloning a mother brain AI, cloning Ridley, they're just the good guys. Although it would be pretty funny if they just said, Samus just blocked out the memories from Other M, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people in real life have already done that themselves. When you look at Ridley's timeline, he's gone through a lot of stuff. Cybernetic enhancements, various mutations, death and cloning. He has a very crazy life, but for the most part, a lot of his life has been relatively well explained. Stuff like Ridley was defeated during the first game, so he was given cybernetic enhancements to become Meta Ridley. That made sense. However, in between Metroid Prime 3 and Super Metroid, there's a big problem in continuity. In Metroid Prime 3, we see Omega Ridley. Not only is Omega Ridley cybernetically enhanced because he was once Meta Ridley, but he was also enhanced by Phazon. That's like 2 levels of enhancements. But then in the next appearance, Super Metroid, he appears completely organic as if nothing ever happened. What happened? No explanation, nothing. He just came out completely organic. Although there is a game in between those 2 games, so maybe, I don't know, have like a standalone story, like, I don't know, like have a cartoon special or a manga or a comic book explaining this, because believe it or not, I will buy that. But what do you guys think about these plot holes, continuity errors, and inconsistencies? I know a lot of people are going to say stuff like, well, the developers didn't know about the future game, so there's no way they could have planned around that. And that is understandable in real life, but like I said before, looking at the general story's timeline, there's a lot of problems here and there, and maybe they should have taken some time to fix these in the future games. And I also know there's going to be comments out there saying stuff like, well, this game isn't canon to this game's story, or something like that. And for that, I gotta say, I can't accept that answer. I believe all the games are canon, and I'll explain that eventually. But if you guys have your own ideas of continuity errors, plot holes, or inconsistencies, feel free to put some in the comment section. I'm pretty sure you guys can think of more obvious plot holes and all that sort of stuff much more better than I ever could. And if you like Metroid content, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and in fact, check out this video up here if you want Metroid content. It's about my top 5 things I want to see in the next 3D Metroid game. I gotta say though, I'm really surprised that I got a lot of comments talking about how I'm just basically making a Zelda game out of this. That wasn't my intention, but I do understand where you guys are coming from. That being said, I'm the Metroid Trainer. I hope you enjoyed this video, cause I'll be seeing you next time.